Well, we're going to have sort of serial introductions here. I'm going to first introduce somebody that doesn't require any introduction, and that's Charlie McDowell. Uh, and of course, Charlie is both an officer and director of the Eastside Charter School and of Reach Riverside, which is I guess the easiest way to say it is a related entity. And what you may not know is that on May 6th of this year at the Newcastle County Chamber of Commerce dinner, Charlie is going to be awarded, given an award for economic impact, which I understand to be in connection with his work at Reach Riverside, which also involves Aaron. So with that introduction, I'll turn it over to Charlie.
Wow. I mean, yeah, that's right. The Economic Impact Award should go to the REACH organization and not to me personally, because it was the people, Logan Herring and his team, who made things happen that have caused the incredible economic impact. But moving on, Aaron Bass, I don't think needs much of an introduction to any of you either. Aaron, you have been with Eastside Charter for how many years now?
8 years, and I apologize for starting a confrontation with our direct chairman of the foundation. But Charlie deserves all the accolades for economic impact, and I want to just echo what Mr. McBride said, that while there are many people at Reach Riverside are doing some wonderful work, love to give my roses to Charlie, and they're well deserved. So sorry, Charlie, I just disagree that you are doing some great work over there, sir.
Well, thank you. I think that's appropriate for the CEO to say to the, board chair of the. But one thing of interest to all of you, I think you may not know that in the last, I don't know, 6 months or so, Aaron completed his doctorate work, and so he is now Dr. Aaron Bass. We should all, acclaim, proud. Yeah, that's right. Clap for that. Aaron has done great things at Eastside Charter. I think he would agree with me that the academic results at Eastside are still dispiritingly low, but we've got great ambitions to increase the proficiency rates by 5 percentage points a year until we get up to state averages. But an important thing to understand is that while we are behind state averages at Eastside, and Aaron will tell you more about this, if you take a look at the same demographics statewide, our kids are actually slightly ahead of the same demographics in other schools. So that gives you a little bit of comfort, but we do have a long way to go, and we have a lot of confidence in Aaron's ability to accomplish that. So with that, let me turn it over to Aaron. He can tell you about some of the particular challenges and the really exciting things in the future for us going forward.
Sure. Pleasure to be here, and congratulations also, Mr. McBride, for being one of the most influential people in all the state of Delaware.
Would you please call me David or Dave, or even some profanity would be more appropriate.
I don't know if I'll use profanity with Westminster Presbyterian.
Oh, okay.
But it is a pleasure to be here. Also, want to give kudos to Ms. Kerr, who has been doing some incredible work at Eastside Charter School this year, working with students. And so we definitely appreciate her, as well as all of you for your just taking the time to work with Eastside. And so I spent a lot of time with David and with Charlie, but also with many of the congregants, and even the blessing of the book bags. When I first came to Delaware, I was invited by Charlie to come and do the blessing of the book bags, and to see a tradition that Westminster has done for many years for Eastside as well as many others. It is a wonderful start to the school year. So thank you to all of you. I'm going to kick this off with a small video. Then we're going to get into some of the particulars and the information that Charlie began to share. And then we'll finish out with some questions and answers of anything you might need. So with that, I'm hoping you can hear this video. I'll click play. when parents make a choice to come to Eastside charter schools because they want to see the best for their child, I think it's also because they have relationships with staff and with students. When you look at many schools in the state of Delaware, the question always comes up, well, where would you send your child? So I think the fact that we have so many parents that teach at our school, that choice into our school, also means that other parents can feel valued.
I think what's so special about Eastside is that we have a relentless attitude about developing our students.
The one thing my wife and I found out that works real well with this is the teachers. They're not just here because they want something to do, they're here because they care. Everything from the beginning of signing my daughter up to right now has been excellent. The communication between the teachers, everything has been wonderful.
Parents, other staff members, leadership, we all work together, and I like that.
It's like a family, honestly. Not only like with the kids, but with the staff as well.
Our goal is that every child at Eastside can become whatever they want to become. And so we have committed resources and talent and people into making sure that that can take place. And that's through Apex, that's through our STEM Hub, and that's also through a lot of our community partnerships.
So the Apex program is a program implemented here that takes children to new limits.
It's exposing and giving the kids exposure to things that just wouldn't have been. I mean, look, my 5th grader is here and she's learning Chinese. So she comes home and she starts speaking Chinese. My wife and I are looking at her like, you go, girl. The Apex program is just an amazing program that I would suggest to any parent.
We are offering the education for students that they deserve. So we go above and beyond for each of the students. We're always available. Everyone in this building cares. If you have that and your child wants to succeed and you want your child to succeed and not be afraid to take chances and really just have that focus instead of all the outside noise, like, we are the place for you.
Again, it's for the kids, it's for the community, and I'm really thankful to be here.
There's a lot of potential within the Riverside community, unlike anywhere else I've ever seen in America. We got to keep doing this work to create the next leaders of tomorrow in Delaware today. I want to kick off with a PowerPoint. Let's see this. Share the screen. Could you all hear the audio?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. We'll do this. And you should see a picture of, that's actually my pastor from Word of Life Church, who is greeting our students. Is that what you see?
Yes.
The gentleman, light popping in was next to a police officer. Perfect. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Eastside Charter School, just where we are, what we're doing, and then we'll do some Q&A. So this is Eastside Charter School. While I serve as a staff member, so I serve as CEO for Eastside Charter School, I'm also a parent. That is my son on the left. He graduated from Eastside 2 years ago. He's now a sophomore in high school. My daughter is on the right. She's currently in 7th grade. She's 12 years old, so you can see the look of, I can't believe I'm taking a picture with my daddy yet again in the hallway or in the class. So those are the decisions we make at Eastside Charter School. It's interesting. When I started at Eastside, we had one person that was a parent in the building. I've been there for 8 years, and now I can say that we've grown maybe till about 10 to 12 parents. And even the staff member that was speaking, she happens to be a parent as well as a board member. So her daughter graduated with my son, and then glad to have such a wonderful community of people that are making decisions that go beyond just working for or with external community, but actually decisions that impact our own families. I know you all have spent some time with the work that Charlie's doing, as well as WRK, so the Warehouse, Kingswood, and Reach Riverside. So I'm gonna just spend a little bit of time giving you some context about what we're doing, just to get into how it fits into Eastside and that overall picture. So as you're aware, there's a lot of work taking place. $600 million are being invested in the Riverside community, and the partners for that are The Warehouse, Eastside, you have Reach Riverside and Kingswood, Penrose and they're experts in the housing, and then the WHA, which is Wilmington Housing Authority. So this project is working within Riverside with this community. The median household income is $25,000. Riverside adults, 35%, do not have a high school diploma. Pretty much any indicator you could think of high need. So low income, low educational attainment, and then 64% of the children living below the poverty line is a high needs area, or as we consider a high promise area. So this is just Riverside demographic data for the community since 2019. What Charlie did, which is amazing, and again, the economic impact, Charlie is one of the key reasons that Reach Riverside exists. And so if you haven't heard the story, I'll tell you for the 19th time or 30th time, but Charlie went on a trip to Atlanta, got a chance to see what was taking place with Purpose Built, and then wanted to bring that back to Delaware. And Charlie is relentless. And so he was able to bring together and make huge changes in Delaware of different leaders, political leaders, financial leaders, and business leaders to then create this level of mixed income housing, credit to college, education, community wellness. And the community that this took place in was in Atlanta, Eastlake, 1995. It went from 5% of the fifth graders met the math standards, had the highest crime rate in the area. Today, 94% of the students are meeting or exceeding the math standards. 100% are working adults, and a huge reduction in crime. And so that was the model that Charlie wanted to bring back here. And so where he is rightfully receiving his Economic Impact Award, because we're seeing that take place now. So talking about a high needs area, we're going to show a few pictures. And so on your left, you might notice David McBride there with his daughter. And this is with Matt Meyer, who was sweating. Casey, you might appreciate the fact that he was sweating only because he had biked to our event that day. And I'll get into Suit Up, Show Up, which is something we do every year. So considering the demographics of where we are and just the needs, I'm going to give you some insight into the testing that Charlie talked about, which is the Smarter Balanced Assessment. Every state in America is required to do a state assessment. And so the assessments shift from state to state. The one we use here in Delaware that many other states use is called Smarter Balanced. The Smarter Balanced Assessment is broken out into 4 different groups. And so students are either 1, they do not meet, 2 nearly meets or approaching, 3 is they are proficient, and 4 is exceeds. So students at the end of the year are given a test in math and in reading, and they are either 3 or 4, which is where they're proficient, or they're not. So I'm going to show you some insight into Eastside over time. So Eastside has been on some of a pendulum. So FY 18 and 19, 20 decreased to 15. You'll realize that the number stopped for 20 and 21. Clearly that's due to the pandemic. Then went to 10% and 15%. As Charlie said, our goal is to increase another 5% annually till we get to the state average. I'll get to that in a minute. This is our English over time. And so you'll see that, again, 20%, 21 to 23% proficiency in English. And there's just a breakout by the grade. So you can see some slight changes over time. So while you're looking at the 15% for math and 23% for English, wanted to give you some context about what that looks like. So in Delaware, where you intersect African-American and low income, which is the community that we serve, you'll notice that Eastside's at 15% proficient. The state average as of last year was at 10% for the same student body. In English, Eastside was at 23% and the state was at 18% for the same student body. And so a lot of times when we look at data, we're looking at data for an entire student body, which includes different economic levels as well as race and other factors. And when we look at the intersection of African-American and low income, we start to break out the data a little bit more. and realized even when we broke down by district for that same group, Eastside, again, 15%, I do not want to pretend that that is a high number. Be very clear. There's a lot of work to do, but there's also a lot of work to do across the state. The only district that had a higher proficiency for that student body of African American and low income was Appaquiddick, where the average was 18%. Also interesting to know that Appaquiddick has one of the highest economic levels of the entire state, which means that you have students that are mixed in interspersed more as opposed to concentrated poverty that you might see in many of the districts or even at Eastside Charter School. So same comparison in English. Yet again, you'll see that when we look at the data for that same group, African American and low income, you'll notice that while Eastside's at 23% proficient, you'll see that we're seeing some consistency across the board. What we have is that we need to look at how we're solving the issues that are facing low-income students and also African Americans here in the state of Delaware, and also make sure we're trying to figure out some solutions. For us, our goal is to meet the state average, which that's for English and for math. And with making increases, some things we've done so far is that we've actually made shifts in our curriculum, purchasing brand new curriculum, working with additional coaches, a lot of work one-on-one with students, and lots of pullouts to make sure we're meeting the need for students as we come back from the pandemic. And so we've seen a dip all across the entire state after the pandemic because students were missing out on some of the key years for learning. So I'm going to tell you a bit more about Eastside and show you some pictures. One of our approaches to increasing our performance has been we have started something called Apex. And so the Apex Honors Program is a partnership that we have with Sanford, Tower Hill, and Wilmington Friends School. In the first 3 years of the program, so the program's about 5 years old, the first 3 years of the program, we saw that our average eighth graders were on the college level, even though they were starting off on level. So students were coming in on level, exiting at or above college level. In the first 3 years, we saw students earn over $1 million in scholarships and financial aid to the top private schools in the state of Delaware. Before this point, we had been seeing that students were leaving Eastside in droves because what would happen is students that might be higher performing were heading to other schools. Those students are now starting to maintain, and we're still looking to increase our Apex program. Eastside is shy of 500 students, so 450 students, of which 60 are in the Apex program. So our goal is to grow Apex, also by growing it within our program, so we see more of our students getting access to this level of education. And by the way, the partnerships with these private schools, what that means is that students take classes at those private schools. They are matched with a peer. So when they go off to Tower Hill, Eastside Apex student goes up to Tower Hill. They have a peer that they spend time with, build friendships with, learn in classes with them. Our teachers, they also have their students come back to Apex. So Wilmington Friends will have their students get on buses, come over to Apex and learn with them. Our teachers collaborate working on collaborative projects like debates, science fairs, etc. So there's some equal opportunities for learning. And what was interesting is that when we started the Apex program, many of the schools said, sure, we'll help. We're going to just jump in and do some stuff and think we're helping. What they found were that the top performing students that were to be in the Apex program were also students that could spar pretty well in those classes, especially in math and in science. So that's a little bit of the Apex program. This is a picture of Ms. Shanko giving a hug to somebody from Barclays Bank. I'm not sure if you saw. They filled the Amazon wish list of every teacher in our building. And so to kick off our school year, Barclays spent above $10,000 to make sure that every teacher got what they needed in their classes. Some more pictures. One thing that Eastside has done well is community engagement. This has been everything from COVID testing as well as COVID vaccinations. During the pandemic, we did not know our impact on the community until we were asked to start COVID testing. So for many years, Eastside has been a center for a number of festivals and community events and engagement. During the pandemic, one thing we found was that the state was doing COVID testing in our area, 19802, where we are. And the state was finding that they would be in our area, maybe 10 blocks from the school, 5 blocks from the school. And then they would decide they might get 30 people that come up for COVID testing. The state then placed their COVID testing site at Eastside Charter School. So we did it in our parking lot. At the height of our testing, we were testing up to 1,000 people in the course of 3 hours. And the question then became, well, why are people coming to Eastside as opposed to other sites that they had named? What we came to understand was that Eastside had a unique space, that we were a trusted source. And so you would have members of our community come out, and students, young people were bringing their grandmothers, their uncles, their aunts. There was a lot of skepticism about institutions, especially beginning of COVID, but because people trusted the work that we were doing, they would come out. And so that led us to this conversation. Well, then how do we have a bigger impact on our community? We need to make sure that we're not only just servicing our students, but also serving our larger environment. So I already shared the work that Reach Riverside is doing, and you've heard a lot of that from others. We wanted to figure out, well, what do our parents need? They need jobs. And so over time, we have raised enough money to build a project which is costing $26 million, which is our STEM Hub. And so the STEM Hub at Eastside Charter School is going to be a unique opportunity where we're going to have our partners, our corporate partners, nonprofits, organizations, and others. What they'll be doing is they'll be coming to the Eastside building and teaching and training adults, not just parents at Eastside, but anybody in the community. So we have scientists that will be coming out and training adults on how to use equipment in science labs. And then there are corporations that actually have jobs at $60,000 a year that are going unfilled. They will be able to be trained. Anyone in the state of Delaware or anywhere can come to the STEM Hub and get training, and then be able to pass certifications and then start working in those fields. We have coding. So there's Code Difference, one of our partners. They do training for adults. You do not need to have a college degree, and they will place you into the corporate sector or wherever you might be, where coding might be needed. And we're seeing people make $60,000 to $80,000 without having a college degree. We're working with NASA, working with University of Delaware, working with a robotics program, DETV, and a number of others. And this is being run by the Wilmington Public Library. So the Wilmington Public Library will be running this facility where after school, people can come into the building, and this is just a blueprint of what that looks like. And so everything in color is what is new to the building. Everything in white is what Eastside currently has. So we're almost coming close to doubling the size of the building. And by the way, the backstory and economic impact of Charlie, Eastside Charter School was given the building for $1 many years ago. And it was because a school district could not get children to come to this building. So they closed their school and they gave the school away. That's what then started the Eastside Foundation, which then accepted the building. And now that same building where children would not go to is about to pretty much double in size because we do not have enough room in that building, and service more children and also the community as a whole. So we're excited about this project and looking forward to many of the partners. And one unique piece about this is that we're having a makerspace in there as well that's open to the public. And so in a makerspace, any engineer can come in, work with 3D printers, which are some of the things you'll see down here. There are, this is pictures, not our finished product, by the way. Our building is coming in March 2025. But laser cutters, There are woodcutters. If you wanted to come in and build a new iPhone, if you wanted to come in and make a new device, this is where engineers will be able to come from the public and work with other scientists in this space that'll be in Riverside. So that is a little bit about us. Ways to engage. We do have mentoring. And so we have mentors that come into the building every Tuesday through Thursday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. There are members of our community that will come out and will spend time at Eastside Charter School working with young people, one-on-one, one-on-two. So if you are interested in doing that, please feel free to reach out. Enrolling students, so definitely spread the word about Eastside Charter School. We'd love to invite people to come out. Financial giving, and so if you would consider giving to Eastside Charter School, we would love that. Join annual events, and I'll talk about a few of them, and then any follow-up about the STEM Hub. The STEM Hub will be open to the public, so while we are also working with young people and adults, failed to mention that we'll also be having mental health in the building. That's through partnerships with Westside Health and with Nemours and some private partners, making sure that mental health is available to all that need it. And we'll also have a student-based health center, so there'll be primary care physicians in the building as well. But if you're interested in working with young people in STEM or with adults in STEM, feel free to reach out. And my email is right there at the very bottom. It's also on our school website, so feel free to reach out to me directly there. And I'll connect you with who you might want to talk to. We also have Halloween, so some of our annual events. If you're ever interested in coming out and passing out some candy to students, we do this on an annual basis. Our community comes out and we go through thousands of bags of candy every Halloween. The first Tuesday after Labor Day, we invite our entire public to come out and greet our students in something we call Suit Up, Show Up. And so my favorite one was 2 years ago where we did Suit Up, Show Up in the rain. It was pouring down rain, and I thought that we were going to have to cancel Suit Up, Show Up. And people came out in their suits and greeted our students with rain pouring down on them, and it was a wonderful sight. So this past year, Suit Up, Show Up. Again, it is open to the public, members of our police department, community leaders, civic leaders, even the Blue Coats mascot. The Delaware basketball team came out and enjoyed us as well. And so if you're interested, we'll be posting again when that happens. It'll be always the Tuesday after Labor Day. We'll greet all of our students and bring them back. It is 7:32. I've shared a lot of information, and I'm pretty sure you might have some more questions. And so stop my share right now. Any questions for me? Casey?
Well, Aaron, first I want to thank both you and Charlie for coming and sharing an update on what's going on, the exciting things happening at Eastside, and providing for us some opportunities for engagement. As I've mentioned before, there is a small group at Westminster that is very much interested in engaging with Eastside. More or less is already working there. I began the process for the mentoring program during the COVID period. We never consummated it, and I'm resurrecting that application now, so looking forward to start as soon as we get all of that organized. So I appreciate you bringing the opportunities to us. That might be ways that the church can engage with the school. I wonder if you could tell us a bit more about opportunities at the STEM Hub. That seems an exciting new project that's just getting off the ground, and what some of the possibilities might be for people engaging with the school through that operation.
Sure, great question. The STEM Hub is it's amazing. So for individuals that would like to volunteer, we're currently hiring our leadership team, for the STEM Hub. So once that opens up, we will be sharing more volunteer opportunities in February 2025, January 2025, so about a year from now. And these are the possibilities. So if you are with a company that is interested in doing workforce development, so you want to train adults in the public for careers in STEM, feel free to connect them with me. We would love to have more organizations come join us to train adults. Also, if you might be familiar with some programs like robotics programs, Legos, even for young people, coding for young people, etc. We're even doing gaming. So we have found that as many ways that we can engage people in STEM. If you were interested in doing that, please let me know. Our working theory is that STEM is the largest sector in the state of Delaware. And so STEM is science, technology, engineering, and math. If you think about our banking sector, of why we pay zero taxes here, which I definitely appreciate. Think about our medical field. If you think about the DuPonts, and so just a lot of spinoffs. And with that, that's what drives our entire economy here in the state of Delaware. But if you ask anybody, well, what's the access point? There isn't one. Typically what happens is somebody does well in school and then they're funneled towards a STEM career. But if you lived in Southbridge, Riverside, or somewhere else, there isn't one. So we're trying to expose more people. And if you are interested in any of that, please feel free to reach out. It opens up March 2025 is our timeline. But if you have partners that are interested in setting up some of those partnerships, workforce development, or work with young people ahead of time, please let me know.
Okay, thanks.
Let me jump back in if I can, because there's some things about Aaron that I should have said earlier that you all should know. And that is that Apex, the middle school honors program, that was entirely Aaron's idea. And that came about, I think, because of a group that Thayer DuPont put together of educators in the city and involved the heads of, I know Tower Hill was there, and perhaps schools as well. And that, so Aaron, I think, made those contacts then, and that's how those relationships got forged. The STEM Hub was entirely Aaron's idea. And he went out and recruited Comores, and Comores grant gave us $4 million to, lead the fundraising there. At that time, we thought the project was only going to cost about $8 or $9 million. It turns out that we didn't do a very good job of back of the envelope estimating on that, and the cost ended up being like $25 million or something like that. And Aaron got initially a $5 million grant out of the state bond bill. Now, I want you to know that when Aaron told me that he was thinking about getting money out of the bond bill, I said, "You're crazy. That is not going to happen, because under state law, charter schools, while they get money for operating expenses, get zero money for capital." And so the idea that the state legislature would give us money for capital out of the bond bill, I thought it was totally ridiculous. Well, he got us $5 million. And then when the cost went up to the $25 million and we couldn't finish the whole project at one time, Aaron went back to the well and got us another $2 million from the state. It's unbelievable. It's incredible. And then on top of that, and because of his contacts with the DOE and others, he got us another $5.7 million grant, which is tied to mental health services at the school. So the man is unbelievable at making these contacts in the community and raising money for us. And I think it'd be nice to hear from Marlis, because Marlis has been, Marlis, I see you there, doing some reading, tutoring, and the governor visited Reach the other day, and he was lamenting the fact about kids with learning loss and how Read Assist was doing a nice job. But Read Assist is a one-on-one program, very expensive to do one-on-one. I personally think we need to have a full court press on recruiting mentors to come and work and just read with kids. So Marlis, why don't you talk about your experience there?
I feel extremely lucky that I was able to contact Charlie, and he put me in touch with Dr. Bass, that then followed up with Mr. Alberti. And I feel very privileged to be working with those children. I have 6 students and I see them twice a week. The thing that when I come into the building that I'm impressed with is the number of staff that greet those kids. I don't know what the teacher-student ratio is in the building, but there just seems to be a lot of adult interaction with those children, supporting them. The children that I have are their major problem is reading. I mean, the surface problem is reading, but there's so many problems underneath, and so I think that underlines the student body that comes out of the economic level of the children that Eastside draws. So, you know, I wish I could be there every day of the week. The building in progress, the construction that I see when I go in, I assume that's all the new STEM
Yes.
construction. So
Yes.
it's going to be awesome. Space is tight right now while all that's going on. So the first day I was there, someone came into the building and said, "Excuse me, but I need to get some of these backpacks out of the room." And so I saw some of the Westminster backpacks going out of the room to the students, and that was nice to see that those backpacks were getting used for our children. And I hope we can do that again this summer.
We appreciate you being there.
We will do the backpacks again this summer, by the way.
We thank you. And we'll also be sending out information about we're doing our last beam installation. So we'll share information with you, I want to say next week. But if you can be out there on April 8th, we'd love to have you. We're thinking around 3:30 p.m. I did see Roger. See a hand up.
Yeah, I had a question for Charlie about the purpose-built Atlanta experience, and what were the drivers of that success? And I think one of them might have been employment, because I saw that employment number. But what were the drivers of success down there that apply also to our situation in Delaware?
Yeah, well, the purpose-built strategy is 4-pronged. It's high quality mixed income housing, mixed income being the really important word in that category, you know, because poverty is a bad thing, but concentrated poverty is exponentially worse. And so you change the demographics of the community. Then a cradle to college education pipeline, and then health, wellness, community wellness, I guess, is a third category. And fourth is economic vitality. So those 4 pillars are the same strategy that is applied by all the purpose-built affiliates around the country. And there are now 28 of them operating in different cities. But more importantly, and pertinent to our conversation tonight, purpose-built will say that we have a holistic approach to neighborhood revitalization, but it's an education-driven holistic approach. The school has got to get it right. And in fact, what the people in Atlanta say drove the success of changing the sort of the character of the community was the success that they achieved in their school. Now they had it somewhat easier than we did because they started a new school, and they started with a new school of kindergarten to 5th graders initially. We've got, K-8 kids who've been with us for some time, and they've been living the life that they've been living for some time. In our case, it's kind of like trying to fix the airplane while you're flying across the Atlantic. But, that's what we got to deal with, and we're going to figure out how to deal with it. But the strategy that Purpose Built applies is what we're doing in Riverside and what Purpose Built is doing at all its other 27 affiliates around the country.
You mentioned kindergarten, but you didn't talk about a component in early childhood education for that area, which is, as you say, they've got already a couple of years of experience, and maybe not a good one in schools. How are you reaching the kids that are going to be going into Eastside a little bit earlier?
Well, a major partner of our project is Kingswood Community Center, and Kingswood has an early learning academy, and Kingswood, which serves, I think, only like about 90 kids now. They graduate maybe 19 or so out of their pre-K, and we're in the process of. In fact, we had a big meeting today with a major potential funder for the new Kingswood, a $50 million project, which will expand the Early Learning Academy to serve up to like 200 students. So that's the pre-kindergarten part of the pipeline. We also do not have a high school now, and that's something we got to figure out. But we're doing a lot of thinking about it, trying to figure out how to figure out how to do that.
Thank you.
So Dave McBride, being on the board of Eastside Charter, you might want to comment about your experience and what your expectations are.
Well, I was going to actually ask questions of Dr. Bass and Marlis from her experience, but the one question I wanted to ask, we've talked about test scores. I had envisioned that a school like Charter would provide what I'll call soft advantages to students in terms of their morale, their sense of self-worth, their sense of identity and stuff and things, sort of things that are hard to measure. Does that happen? I mean, is there a reality to that, or am I, living a dream?
I would say the answer is yes. And so we have talked a lot about test scores, and we've talked about poverty in terms of existentially. And so we're directly dealing with issues where issues of mental health. And so it is in the 8 years that I've been at Eastside, almost every year I've had at least one, if not multiple, students come to school a day after they've experienced somebody close to them be murdered. And so we have seen some very graphic situations where there are unresolved issues. A student might come to school the next day and a student is acting out. And we don't understand what took place. And then we get a phone call or we see something in the news and then find out that was a mother. There are two girls I hug every morning because their mother was murdered last year. And one is 5 and one is 7. And their father's also gone as well. And so it is painful to deal with some of the experiences of children that have dealt with violence against them or around them and their families, homelessness. And so we go above and beyond for the needs of our families, and also realize, sorry, there's a Great Dane behind me. And we realize that we have children who are on top of trying to read. How do I get home? How do I eat tonight? Will we have to deal with somebody in the home who shouldn't be there? And so we provide mental health services that the foundation that Charlie's been leading have been serving the school above and beyond that which was required. We've also been leading policy work to increase mental health. Issues around identity, I think, are why we've also created a STEM hub. We wanted students to be able to feel like, one, I can be successful, but I need to see somebody that's being successful. And so our partners are very intentional in that we have many leaders in our community that are able to work with young people. We do that through our mentoring program, but then also the STEM hub, that I can then become an engineer, I can become a coder, and I can see people in many of these instances that look like me that have been successful doing that. And we've done everything from engage students with authors and engage them with a number of other people to help them build their identity. But we also knew that we have to do more so that when they're graduating, they can also be successful. And so there are internships and work we're doing at the Teen Warehouse and then also the STEM hub, because we've been losing students after they graduate from us and they head off to high school. It is a scattering. So Charlie said we're trying to build a high school. Our students, it is rare to have more than 3 students in our graduating class be at the same school. Our entire graduating class scatters across the many different districts, charter schools and private schools, but mostly district and charter schools for high school. And so we have to figure out then how do we continue to service our students, but then also match that with job opportunities. And one of the key things we found is that, look, if we're trying to solve poverty and solve the issues of children, you can end homelessness if you can provide parents with opportunities for having a job. You can end starvation if families have food that they can afford. And so we're trying to grapple some larger issues as well as grapple with what you see as an end result of our test scores. That's a reality. We need to do better and also try to solve some systemic issues that are plaguing our children.
Yeah, and I was going to ask Charlie if I understand that it seems to me that there's a possibility of a virtuous cycle in the sense that if a more sustainable community or whatever the mixed income covers, that kind of community could help promote the school and help improve performances at the school, and in the reverse, that the success of the school would draw people to the community. So is it a two-way process, or both going on, or both we're trying to achieve?
Exactly. I mean, you got to work hard to work with the kids who are with us now to figure out how to get them to perform better. But at the same time, you've also got to have some change in the demographics of the community, which would change the demographics of the school. And that's what the purpose-built approach is all about, is changing the atmosphere and the demographics of the entire neighborhood. And it's not moving anybody out. It's keeping everybody here, but attracting new people to come in.
I was going to ask you about the risk of displacement by gentrification, so to speak. But you've just answered that, I think.
Well, one thing, we were very fortunate in our situation because in, I guess, probably the vast majority of urban renewal projects around the country, what happens is that you come in, you tear down all of the public housing, and you spend a couple of years replacing with new housing, and then you repopulate. And the number of people of legacy residents who come back is small. It's like 20% or something. In our situation, the Riverside Housing Project originally was 600 units built in the 60s. But over the years, half of them became dilapidated and were torn down because it was too expensive to repair them. So that meant that when we have first started building our new housing, it's all on vacant land. So nobody has had to move other than to move across the street into the new housing. It's a very, very fortunate thing for us in our situation. So absolutely no displacement.
Great.
I see some hands up, so I'll call Sandy and then we'll go to Lynn.
Yes, I was wondering about enrollment. How many applications do you have as compared to how many students you can accept, and what are some of the how do you make those decisions of who gets to come?
So we're a public school and we accept we take everybody. And so if you I was giving a tour yesterday and I was proud to show off that we have settings A, B, and C. And so I'll explain what that is. In Delaware for special education, a typical classroom is a teacher and 20 students in a class. They teach all the students in the class. Setting B is where you have a teacher plus a special education teacher that works with students that might have IEPs or special needs, federally designated special needs in that class. And then we also have what's called setting C here in Delaware, which is full pullout classes. We have students with an individualized education plan or an IEP, a special plan, that's recognized by the federal government that is so severe that they cannot take classes in a traditional classroom. So you might have students of a 1-to-3 ratio. Marlis talked about the fact of the ratio of some of there's so many teachers and staff in the building, and yes, we have some students that have some very high needs, which means to qualify that we don't cream. We accept anyone that can live in the state of Delaware and wants to come to our schools. We're at 450 students right now. We have capacity at our Apex program. We're currently 60 students, and so we're increasing that to 20 more students, so 80 students for next year. 20 more slots for 5th through 8th grade students. And then once our building opens up, we have capacity to grow to 600 students. And as Marlis can tell you right now, she has been tutoring students in closets, in classrooms, in libraries, in hallways. She has been the most patient person, but that's because our building is, at this point, we're cramped. And with our expansion to almost double the size of the building, then we'll have more space. So Marlis will have her own room. She'll be able to be there, and we're going to have a red carpet for her when she comes to that new room after the building opens up, and then have more people there.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Lynn.
Sure, thanks. So I understand based on the model, it really is dependent on the virtuous cycle to start building, and the different things help others improve. So I'm curious about now that large sections of the new housing has been built, and I haven't stayed on top of what that looks like in terms of what percentage of those have been opening up housing so that some of the lower income folks can move from the old housing into the new housing, and how much of it is for a higher income level, how many of those have moved in. And of those higher income folks, are they indeed choosing to go to Eastside Charter to start changing the demographics of the school itself?
I'll let Trey talk about the demographics of the housing. I'll answer the question about the enrollment.
Well, I can tell you, well, first of all, the model for the housing is to have 1/3 deeply subsidized, 1/3 affordable, which I think is like 40 to 60% of AMI, and then 1/3 for market rate. Of the 141 units that have been built, actually the market rate units are only like about 20%. And that was driven by the financing requirements. You get more of a subsidy with the subsidized units, and so the financing drove that. When the whole project gets built out, we would hope to get overall about 30% market rate. However, one thing I just learned last week actually is that of the 141 units, about 120 are occupied by people who were living in the public housing project. Some of them have incomes that have gone up so that they are now in the market rate category. So we really don't have that much new blood in the 141 units at that's far. That's where we are.
And that meets also the answer for the not having new blood. We have many families that have moved across the street and have maintained at Eastside. We haven't, the project is building, so as more phases open up and more families are coming in, then we expect to see, to Charlie's point, new blood coming in, and then those families moving into Eastside. What's also interesting is that there are Eastside staff members that are hoping to get on wait lists and actually to move into the Imani Village, which is the community right there. And so I have staff members every week asking me, so are they ready yet? No, they're not ready yet. But what we want to see is, it's great when you have staff that are willing to move into that community and it's out of their own want. And if you ever get a chance to tour the Imani Villages, there's some phenomenal housing. They're great places, and so that's why we have staff that are jumping at the opportunity to live with their students.
Thank you.
Well, Aaron, we're anxious to get the members of our work team out to see the school sometime soon. I know you've got a lot of construction and stuff going on, but the five people on our team, when I mentioned that you were planning a tour, everybody wanted to come, so we're hopeful that we can do that sometime soon.
Wonderful. Mondays are best for me around 9 o'clock. And so if you give me a couple of options, I'd love to personally take you all around, jump into some classrooms and see what's going on, the work that Charlie, Marlis, and David and many others have been doing.
What were those times again, Aaron?
Mondays around 9 a.m. That's my wonderful time. But if there's some mornings that work for your team, definitely let me know. We love to have you come out. And then you'll see some kids.
We're also hopeful that we can get more people involved in the mentoring and the tutoring option beyond our small working team. Our aim is to engage as many people in the congregation as we possibly can in the urban mission of Westminster.
We appreciate it.
Well, I have one last question. Is there any other project of comparable scope in Delaware to what's happening at Reach, Riverside, and Eastside?
Not that I know of.
No. The Dover Air Force Base might be parallel to the amount of work that's going into this.
It seemed to me that this is one of the most important, if not the most important thing that's going on in our state right now. But and I say that as someone who makes little to no contribution to the effort. So at least so far, maybe someday.
There's always tomorrow, David.
I know. And I've been waiting for tomorrow for a long time.
Well, so tomorrow, Mr. McBride and I are going to have lunch together. So
there you go.
I will take care of it tomorrow.
Does that mean, Charlie, you're not going to ask me to step down from the board?
Your position is solid.
Yeah. Well, does anybody else have any questions? I guess or Aaron or Charlie, is there anything you'd like to end with? I'm inclined now. I listen to Ezra Klein podcast, and he always asks the guests at the end to tell us 3 books you would recommend, and another one that says tell us something good or uplifting at the end. But is there anything you guys would like to end with?
I just like to say that I'm just really feel so proud that I'm a member of a church that's got so many outstanding congregants who want to go out and try to make, our community a better place.
I'll give the books. I just finished 6 Types of Genius by Pat Lencioni. I'm teaching. Thanks for the feedback to our staff right now at Eastside. And then I'll end off with Isabel Wilkerson's Cast. So if we started off talking about the movie, but if you get a chance to read the book, it's an interesting conversation. I've been debating it with my 12-year-old daughter, which is an interesting conversation because she's a very strong-willed person. And then I agree with Charlie. So glad to see the work taking place at Westminster. I've had a chance to join you all in service as well as some of the events. Not sure if you're still doing the iftar again for Ramadan. So I see head shaking, so I'll be back out there again. And appreciate all the work that you all do, as well as the incredible staff at Eastside Charter School, and glad to be here.
The iftar is 2 Sundays away, I think it is.
Right.
Does anybody remember what the date is?
17th, I think, Sunday evening. I think
Sunday evening, the 17th,
17th.
10 o'clock.
You're doing a St. Patty's Day iftar? Sounds
Yes,
great.
we
Ah, well.
are doing iftar instead of St. Patty's Day.
I see.
Good night, everyone. I have to run.
Well, thank you, Dr. Bass. And I'm going to say this, Dr. McDowell. We JDs don't ever get called doctor.
There you go.
First doctorate.
So long, everyone.
So much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for spending your time with us.
Okay, good night.
Good night.